Block O displays 3 interesting stitches. Scallop shells creates undulating waves across the base of the block. Then follows boxed bobble, all square and ship shape. The block is then topped off with a light, feathery arrow darts pattern, a winning combination. Here are the 2 pages that show you how to make Block O of the textured sampler blanket. If you're putting them in a display book, it must be looking very beautiful and lovely and inspirational by now. We have 2 new stitches, scallop shells and arrow darts, and we're repeating one that you did in an earlier block, boxed bobble. The first stitch is scalloped shells, a lovely wavy pattern. Then a band of boxed bobble, punctuated with little bobbles. As you transition from one pattern to the next, we need to adjust how many stitches there are in each row. So going from scallop shells to boxed bobble, you add a couple, then going from boxed bobble to arrow darts, you add some more. In scallop shells and arrow darts, there is an extra stitch on each side, extra to the pattern that's worked across the middle, and it is a knit one at the beginning and end of every row, knit one at the beginning and end of every row. Boxed bobble is just boxed bobble, no extra stitches. An interesting little side issue is the fact that these little shells and these arrows are both made by double yarn over the needle, but they end up quite differently, don't they? You'll see when you knit them. Our first stitch for block O is the scallop shells stitch. You can download this version of the pattern from our website. There's a small difference between knitting scallop shells from the pattern I just showed you and knitting it as part of block O in the textured sampler blanket. For scallop shells as part of block O, start and finish every row with 1 extra stitch, which is in addition to the normal pattern. It's quite a logical stitch. Here we are setting up everything that's going to happen for the next few rows. Yarn forward, that makes an eyelet. Yarn forward, make another eyelet. Then double yarn over to make long loops that will eventually become the little seashells. There needs to be 5. Then we go back to just single yarn overs, but not knitting the yarn overs like we did for the scallop shells. Let's see, I should have 5 eyelets, 5 yarn overs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's back to the double yarn overs. The difference being, we insert the needle first, then do the double yarn overs, that's for the shells, whereas for the eyelets, it's a yarn over in between the knit stitches. Continue on like this to the end of the row. We slip a few stitches in this pattern. I'm about to slip them now. Where we did the double yarn overs, we slip them and make them only 1 stitch. So the extra yarn over just slips off and we have some nice long loops for our seashells. Then put the yarn to the back of the work, ready to knit. And we're just knitting the single yarn overs as ordinary stitches. When we get to the double yarn overs, bring the yarn to the front of the work and slip them 1 by 1, 3, 4, 5, then it's back to knitting. Continue to the end of the row. This is the gathering up row where we gather the 5 long strands together to make the shell. It's a purl row, but remember, begin with one knit. Purl till you get to the shell, and we purl all 5 together. 2, 3, 4. Get on there. There we are. And then purl to the next shell. Continue to the end of the row, and at the end of the row you're going to remember to put one knit stitch to keep a nice neat edge. Beginning and ending every row with the knit one keeps a nice edge, nice firm edge for when you're joining it to the next block. Our second colour and second stitch for block O is boxed bobble. You've done it before. When transitioning from colour 1 to colour 2 and pattern 1 to pattern 2, which is the boxed bobble, you need to increase a couple in the first row. I do it like this, by purling into the stitch below, into the top of the stitch below there, and then purling the stitch. Let's see how that looks. Yes, perfectly acceptable. Boxed bobble then starts with a purl row. It gives a nice ridge along the bottom of the boxes. Row 2 is also a purl row. All the even numbered rows are all purl rows, all the wrong side rows. Our third colour and third pattern for block O is Arrow Darts, number 41 on our website of free patterns. Before beginning Arrow Darts pattern, we need to increase stitches in the first row, and it's in a knit row, so my favourite way is, as you know, knit into the top of the stitch below, then knit the stitch. Spread them out evenly in that first row. This will be followed by 2 more rows to make some stocking stitch before we start the arrow darts. You can see where the increase was when you're on the wrong side of the work, but you don't see it from the right side. Arrow darts has an extra stitch on each end, so all rows are begin and end with a knit stitch. This is the second row making some stocking stitch, so it's a purl row, so it began with the knit stitch. We did that down here. Every row began and ended with a knit stitch. This one just naturally, every row began and ended with a purl stitch, which gives the same effect. This pattern, Arrow Darts, uses double yarn over as we did in the scallop shells, except this time we're doing it purlwise. Double yarn over. Insert right hand needle into the next stitch purlwise, wrapping the yarn around the needle twice, then complete the purl stitch. When we did it in the scallop shells, we did it knitwise. The first row is a purl row, but we remember to do a knit one to start. We purl one. Now we do our double yarn over, but purlwise this time. Then we purl 4. Then we do 2 double yarn overs, purlwise, purl 4, and so on to the end of the row. Of course, ending the row with a knit one. In the next row, we slip the loops off, the ones we made with the double yarn over. Slip it off, knit 4, slip both of them off, And at the end of the row, we don't have 2 loops, we only have 1. At the beginning of the row, this also happened, a single loop. Continue slipping those stitches in the next row and purling between them. Slip the 2 of them all the way along till you get to the end where you slip 1 and then purl 1 and then knit 1. That's our extra one for fitting it in to block O. That was the end of row 3. Rows 4 and 5 are just repeats of rows 2 and 3. In the last row of this pattern, we deal with all those loops and put them where they should be. We start with taking the first loop to the left. Cable 3 left. 3 stitches involved and it's going to the left. And then cable 3 right. So the loop is coming to the right, so those 2 go to the back. Knit this one, knit the 2 from the cable needle. And that's all there is to it. Next one, cable left. It's 1 going over 2. And then cable right. 2 to the back. And they're all knit stitches. It's all stocking stitch. And you continue to the end of the row. A rather slow row, but it's only 1 in 6. And there we have it. Block O, all finished being knitted. 3 quite different stitches. 1 all wavy, 1 all square and ship shape, and these little arrowheads are very feathery and light. A pretty combination. Just 3 bands of great stitches. This block is an easy knit. Ta-ta!
Hi, I'm Ferg, Daphne's husband. Here are the steps to get your free download of Daphne's Textured Sampler ebook. The first step is send an email to knitwithdaphne@gmail.com and include the subject free download. There is no need for any content in the email, and then send the email. You will receive an automatic response to your email that includes the link to access Google Cloud. When you click the link, the Knit with Daphne folder with all the downloadable patterns will open. Double-click the Textured Sampler blanket to open and download the ebook. Enjoy knitting the Textured Sampler blanket.